Chapter 1. What your bathroom habits may be telling you. Chapter 2. Understanding how aging may affect your kidneys. Many of the people around Mr. Park admired what they thought was a sign of good health. Some would even say he hardly ever needs to use the restroom. His kidneys must be working perfectly. In fact, many people are surprised to learn that changes in urination patterns don't always mean what they might assume. Some common beliefs about kidney health may not tell the whole story. Today's video covers several topics worth exploring, from what bathroom habits may or may not reveal, to signs that deserve attention, everyday habits that may support kidney health over time, and a few examples that illustrate how small changes can make a meaningful difference. But before getting into all of that, it's helpful to understand why the kidneys are so important in the first place. The kidneys function as a remarkable filtration system that works around the clock. Much like the filter inside a water purifier, healthy kidneys continuously remove waste products, while helping the body maintain the right balance of fluids and essential nutrients. Inside each kidney are about 1 million tiny filtering units called nephrons. These microscopic structures work 24 hours a day, quietly performing tasks that most people rarely think about. As people grow older, however, some of these filtering units naturally become less efficient. This gradual change is considered a normal part of aging, and kidney function may slowly decline over time. Because these changes happen very gradually, many older adults may not notice any obvious symptoms in the early stages. That's why kidney health is often described as something that deserves quiet attention rather than fear. Studies suggest that reduced kidney function becomes increasingly common with age, and many older adults may be unaware that these changes are taking place. That brings us to an important question. Some older adults describe feeling more tired than usual, noticing that their legs feel weaker, or finding that their energy level isn't quite what it once was. While these experiences can have many different causes, they are worth paying attention to, especially as part of the bigger picture of healthy aging. And understanding those subtle changes is where our discussion begins. Chapter 3. Is frequent urination always a bad sign? Understanding the difference between the bladder and the kidneys. Now let's take a closer look at one of the most common questions older adults ask about kidney health. Many people assume that urine is simply water that enters the body and then leaves a short time later. But the process is actually far more complex than that. Not long ago, there was an older woman in her early 70s, whom we'll call Mrs. Lee. For nearly 3 years, she intentionally limited how much water she drank. Most days, she had only 3 or 4 small glasses, because she found frequent trips to the restroom inconvenient, especially when she was away from home. During a routine health screening last year, however, she learned that her kidney function had declined more than expected for her age. She was surprised and asked, "How could that be? I don't have any pain. And I don't feel sick." And that brings us to an important point. The kidneys are much more than simple pipes that allow water to leave the body. They act as an incredibly sophisticated control center, constantly helping regulate fluid balance throughout the body. Most of the water in the body is continuously circulating through the blood, tissues, and cells. Only a relatively small amount leaves the body each day as urine. That means the kidneys are not simply producing urine all day long. Instead, they are constantly monitoring and adjusting the body's fluid balance. One helpful way to understand this is through a simple comparison. Traffic lights don't simply let every car pass through at the same speed. They constantly adjust the flow to keep everything moving smoothly. In much the same way, the kidneys are continually responding to the body's needs. When the body needs more fluids, they may help conserve water. When excess fluid needs to be removed, they may increase urine production. Chapter 4. When frequent urination is normal and when going too long without it may deserve attention. Now, let's make an important distinction. Simply using the restroom frequently does not automatically mean that something is wrong with the kidneys. Not long ago, there was a woman in her late 60s whom we'll call Mrs. Young. She noticed that even after drinking a single glass of water, she would often need to use the restroom within 40 minutes. On most days, she went about 8 to 10 times. Friends and family had repeatedly asked whether her kidneys might be weak. And naturally, she became concerned. But after routine blood work and a urine test, everything looked normal. Her kidney function was within the expected range, and there were no signs of protein or blood in the urine. So why do some people seem to go more often than others? One reason is simply that bladder capacity varies from person to person. Some people begin to feel the urge to urinate when the bladder contains a relatively small amount of urine, while others can comfortably hold more. Just as people come in different heights and body types, bladder size and sensitivity can vary as well. Another possibility is that the kidneys are responding efficiently to changes in fluid balance. After drinking water, some people's bodies adjust quickly, and excess fluid may be removed sooner. In many cases, this is simply part of normal regulation. Sensitivity also differs from one person to another. Some individuals notice bladder signals earlier than others. This variation can be similar to how some people wake up at the slightest sound, while others sleep through much louder noises. Environmental factors can play a role as well. During colder months, or when spending long periods indoors with air conditioning, people tend to sweat less. As a result, more fluid leaves the body through urine. Someone who visits the restroom 5 times a day during the summer may naturally go much more often during the winter. In Mrs. Young's case, there appeared to be several factors at work, including a quick response to fluid changes and reduced sweating during the colder season. Many health professionals suggest that intentionally avoiding fluids or cutting back on water simply to reduce bathroom trips may create other concerns over time. At the same time, frequency alone doesn't tell the whole story. If frequent urination is accompanied by burning, discomfort, or pain, it may deserve closer evaluation. If the bladder never feels completely empty, other conditions affecting the urinary tract may need to be considered. Waking up several times every night, excessive thirst, unexplained weight loss, or other unusual changes may also be worth discussing with a healthcare professional. At this point, it's worth noting that frequent urination can, in many cases, be completely normal. But what about the opposite situation? What if someone can go for many hours without needing to use the restroom at all? Many people assume that this means their bladder is strong and their kidneys are working perfectly. However, that's not always the case. There was also a gentleman in his early 70s whom we'll call Mr. Kim. He often mentioned that after having a glass of water at 8 o'clock in the morning, he could easily go until 3 in the afternoon without using the restroom once. He would often say that he had always had a strong bladder, even when he was younger. But during a routine examination, he learned that his kidney function had declined more than he expected. He had felt fine and had simply assumed that fewer trips to the restroom meant better health. So how could something like that happen? To answer that question, we need to understand what the kidneys are actually doing behind the scenes and why less frequent urination doesn't always tell the whole story. Chapter 5: Everyday habits that may place extra stress on kidney health. Now let's take a closer look at several everyday habits that may, over time, place extra stress on the kidneys. The first habit involves intentionally limiting fluid intake. Not long ago, there was an older gentleman in his 70s, whom we'll call Mr. Kim. For years, he made a habit of drinking only about 4 to 5 glasses of water a day. When asked why, he explained that he didn't want to inconvenience others by needing to use the restroom too often, especially when he was out of the house. As a result, he often avoided drinking water altogether when he went outside. To understand why this matters, it helps to remember what the kidneys are doing every day. On average, they filter a large volume of blood continuously, and water plays an essential role in that process. When fluid intake is consistently low, the blood can become more concentrated, and the kidneys may need to work under less favorable conditions to maintain balance in the body. A simple way to think about it is this: when doing laundry, if there isn't enough water, detergent may not rinse away properly. In a similar way, the body relies on adequate hydration to help maintain its natural filtering processes. The second habit is regularly holding in urine for long periods of time. When the bladder becomes full, it sends a signal to the body Ignoring that signal repeatedly over time may cause the bladder muscles to stretch beyond their usual comfort level. While the bladder is designed to adapt, consistently delaying bathroom visits over many years may affect how effectively it functions. The urinary system is designed for urine to flow in one direction, from the kidneys down to the bladder through small tubes called ureters. Under normal conditions, this flow is one way. However, when pressure inside the bladder becomes too high for extended periods, that pressure can interfere with the normal flow of urine. In some situations, this may allow urine to move in the wrong direction, which is not ideal for the kidneys. If this pattern repeats over time, it may increase the risk of irritation or stress within the urinary system. The third habit involves long-term dietary patterns, especially consistently high sodium intake. Some older adults enjoy traditional meals that include soups, stews, and salted foods as a regular part of their diet. While these foods are culturally meaningful and enjoyable, frequent high sodium intake may influence fluid balance in the body. When sodium levels are high, the body tends to retain more water to maintain balance, which can affect blood pressure and place additional demand on the kidneys as they filter the blood over time. Some large studies suggest that consistently high sodium intake may be associated with a higher risk of reduced kidney function, especially when combined with other health factors. The fourth habit is the frequent or long-term use of certain pain medications and unverified supplements. Some older adults rely on over-the-counter pain relievers for joint discomfort, sometimes over extended periods. While occasional use may be appropriate, regular long-term use may affect blood flow in the kidneys in some individuals. Similarly, certain supplements or herbal products, especially those without clear ingredient information or quality control, may also place additional strain on the kidneys when used frequently or in high amounts. Some health professionals note that long-term use of certain pain medications or supplements has been reported among those with kidney concerns, which is why careful and informed use is generally advised. The fifth habit involves not managing underlying health conditions, such as high blood pressure or diabetes. There was also an older gentleman in his 70s who had been managing high blood pressure for more than a decade. At first, he kept up with it regularly, but over time, he became less consistent, assuming that as long as he felt fine, it was not a serious issue. High blood pressure is one of the most important factors related to kidney health. The kidneys contain a delicate network of small blood vessels that work continuously to filter blood. When blood pressure remains elevated over long periods of time, these small vessels may be placed under ongoing stress, which can gradually affect their function. Studies suggest that poorly controlled blood pressure over many years may increase the likelihood of declining kidney function. In Mr. Kim's case, several of these habits were present at the same time. He drank less water than many health professionals generally suggest, often delayed urination, consumed salty foods regularly, used medications intermittently, and did not consistently manage his blood pressure. Over time, these combined factors appeared to affect his kidney function, even though he did not experience obvious symptoms in the early stages. And that brings us to an important question. When the kidneys begin to experience stress over time, does the body always remain silent? Or are there subtle signs worth paying attention to? Chapter 6. Subtle signs that may be worth paying attention to. In many cases, the body does send signals when something begins to change. The challenge is that these signals can be subtle and easy to overlook in daily life. This section covers several signs that many health professionals encourage older adults to be aware of. These are not meant for self-diagnosis, but rather as general indicators that may be worth discussing with a healthcare provider if they appear consistently or in combination. The first sign involves changes in urination. Under normal conditions, urine is typically light yellow, especially when a person is well hydrated. It is also common for the first urination in the morning to appear darker, since the body has gone several hours without fluid intake. However, if urine remains consistently dark, brown, tea-colored, or unusually discolored even after adequate hydration, it may be worth paying attention to. In some cases, this can indicate the presence of blood or other changes that should be evaluated if they persist. Another detail people sometimes notice is foam in the urine. A small amount of foam can be completely normal, especially depending on the speed of the urine stream. But if the foam appears dense and remains for several minutes without fading, it may be associated in some cases with protein in the urine, which is worth discussing with a healthcare provider. Changes in volume are also important. If a person is drinking a normal amount of fluids, but notices that urine output has significantly decreased over time, it may suggest that the kidneys are not processing fluid in the usual way. On the other hand, unusually high urine output despite low fluid intake may also warrant attention, especially when accompanied by other symptoms. The second sign is swelling, often noticed in the face, ankles, or lower legs. Some people may wake up with puffiness around the eyes that lasts for several days. While occasional swelling can be related to sleep position or dietary factors, persistent changes deserve closer attention. One observation that some health professionals use involves pressing gently on the lower leg. If a dent remains for several seconds after pressure is released, it may indicate fluid retention. Similarly, if sock marks remain visible for a long time after removal, this can be another sign of fluid imbalance. When kidney function is reduced, the body may have more difficulty maintaining proper fluid and mineral balance. As a result, fluid can accumulate in certain areas, often first appearing in the lower parts of the body due to gravity. The third sign is persistent fatigue that does not improve with rest. Some individuals report feeling tired even after a full night's sleep. Others may find themselves unintentionally dozing off during the day, or feeling low on energy without a clear reason. If the face appears unusually pale, or if energy levels consistently feel lower than usual, one possible contributing factor can be anemia. The kidneys play a role in producing a hormone that may signal the bone marrow to produce red blood cells. When kidney function declines, this process may be affected, which can reduce the body's oxygen carrying capacity and contribute to fatigue. The fourth sign is a change in nighttime urination patterns. Waking up once in a while during the night can be common with age. However, if nighttime urination becomes frequent and disrupts sleep on a regular basis, it may deserve attention. Normally, the kidneys concentrate urine during sleep, reducing urine volume so the body can rest. When this concentrating ability is reduced, more diluted urine may be produced throughout the night, leading to more frequent awakenings. If a large portion of daily urine output occurs at night, it may be another pattern worth discussing with a healthcare provider. The fifth sign involves changes in appetite or taste. Some people notice a reduced interest in food, mild nausea after eating, or a general loss of appetite without a clear reason. In some cases, weight may decrease unintentionally over time. When waste products are not filtered as efficiently, they may build up in the bloodstream and influence how the body feels, including digestion and taste perception. Some individuals may even notice changes in breath, odor, or develop unusual cravings, such as a stronger preference for salty or sweet foods. The sixth sign is changes in the skin. Dryness and persistent itching, especially on the back, arms, or legs, may sometimes occur. What makes this different from typical dry skin is that it may not improve significantly even with moisturizers. One possible explanation is that imbalances in minerals, such as calcium and phosphorus, along with the buildup of certain waste substances, may contribute to skin irritation. The seventh sign involves muscle cramps, particularly at night. Some people experience sudden cramps in the calves that wake them from sleep. Others may notice stiffness or tightness in the muscles, even without physical exertion. When kidney function is affected, the balance of electrolytes such as calcium, magnesium, and potassium may also be disrupted. These minerals play an important role in normal muscle contraction and relaxation, so imbalance can sometimes contribute to cramping sensations. Taken together, these signs are not meant to cause concern on their own. Many of them can have multiple possible explanations. However, if two or more of these patterns appear together and persist over time, it may be reasonable to seek further evaluation. To summarize, this section has covered changes in urination, swelling, ongoing fatigue, nighttime urination, appetite changes, skin symptoms, and muscle cramps. Next, the focus shifts to situations where medical attention may be more urgent and should not be delayed. Chapter 7. When it may be important to seek medical attention sooner. There are certain situations where it may be helpful not to wait too long before getting a medical evaluation. These signs are not meant to cause alarm, but rather to help identify changes that many health professionals consider worth checking more promptly. The first situation involves swelling that does not improve over several days. Occasional swelling can happen for many reasons, including diet, physical activity, or spending long periods sitting or standing. However, if swelling in the face, ankles, or legs continues for 4 to 5 days without improvement, it may be a good idea to have it evaluated. The second situation is when swelling appears together with persistent fatigue. When these two symptoms occur at the same time, they may sometimes reflect changes in how the body is managing fluid balance or overall circulation. In such cases, both kidney and heart function may be worth discussing with a healthcare provider as part of a broader evaluation. The third situation involves a noticeable and unexplained increase in body weight over a short period of time. For example, gaining a few kilograms within about a week, without major changes in diet or activity, may suggest that the body is retaining more fluid than usual. This can sometimes happen when the kidneys are not removing excess fluid as efficiently as expected. The fourth situation is any clear change in urine appearance, combined with other symptoms. This includes urine that becomes unusually dark, contains visible blood, or develops persistent foam that does not go away after a few minutes. While not every change indicates a serious condition, these patterns may be worth discussing with a healthcare provider, especially if they continue. If any of these situations occur, speaking with a healthcare provider about basic tests such as a urine analysis and blood work may be a reasonable next step. One important point to keep in mind is that early evaluation can make a meaningful difference. Many concerns related to kidney function may be easier to address when they are identified at an earlier stage. That is why paying attention to these signals is less about fear and more about awareness and timely action. Chapter 8. Foods that may place extra stress on the kidneys and foods that may support kidney health. Now let's talk about diet. Many people are surprised to learn that some foods often considered healthy may need to be approached more carefully when kidney function is reduced. At the same time, there are also foods that tend to be gentler on the body and may support overall kidney health. This section begins with foods that are often discussed in relation to kidney stress when consumed in large amounts or alongside certain health concerns. One example is bananas. Bananas are widely known as a healthy fruit, rich in potassium and often enjoyed for energy and digestion. However, for individuals whose kidney function may be reduced, potassium intake is sometimes worth monitoring more carefully. A medium banana contains a significant amount of potassium. In healthy individuals, the kidneys help regulate and remove excess potassium. But when kidney function is impaired, potassium may accumulate in the bloodstream over time. Studies suggest that very high potassium levels may affect heart rhythm, which is why some health professionals consider it worth monitoring. In certain situations, this is not about avoiding bananas completely. Rather, it is about understanding how individual health factors may influence dietary choices. Another commonly discussed item is oranges and orange juice. Oranges are rich in vitamin C and are often enjoyed as part of a morning routine. However, they also contain potassium. Orange juice, in particular, is more concentrated because it takes several oranges to make a single glass. For some individuals who are mindful of their potassium intake, liquid fruit intake may contribute more potassium than expected, especially when consumed regularly in larger amounts. Potatoes are another example. They are a staple in many traditional meals, including soups and stews. However, potatoes naturally contain a relatively high amount of potassium when boiled or cooked in soups. Some of that potassium may move into the cooking liquid as well. This means that both the potato and the broth may contribute to overall intake. Depending on how the dish is prepared and consumed, spinach is often praised for its iron content. and is frequently recommended in discussions about general nutrition. However, it also contains potassium and naturally occurring compounds such as oxalates. In some individuals, oxalates may contribute to the formation of kidney stones. When dietary intake is high and other factors are present. For those who are paying closer attention to kidney health, both potassium and oxalate intake may be worth keeping in mind. The fifth category includes processed meats and heavily salted foods, such as ham, sausages, bacon, and various fermented or preserved seafood products. These foods tend to be higher in sodium and phosphorus additives. Over time, high sodium intake may contribute to increased blood pressure, which is one of the important factors related to kidney health. Phosphorus additives are used in food processing to improve texture and shelf life. But when kidney function is reduced, phosphorus regulation may become more difficult. This is why processed foods are often discussed in relation to balanced eating routines that support kidney health. There are also foods that are generally considered more supportive as part of a balanced eating routine. Apples are a good example. They are relatively low in potassium compared to many other fruits and contain dietary fiber, including pectin. Pectin may support digestive health and help the body manage certain waste products more efficiently. Apples also contain natural plant compounds with antioxidant properties. For many people, they are a simple and accessible fruit that fits well into a balanced diet. Cabbage is another commonly recommended vegetable. It is relatively low in potassium and contains vitamins, such as vitamin C and vitamin K, along with plant compounds that support overall cellular health. Light cooking methods, such as steaming or boiling, are often used to make it easier to digest. Blueberries are also widely recognized for their antioxidant properties. They contain anthocyanins, which give them their deep blue color. These compounds help protect cells from oxidative stress, which is a natural process in the body that increases with aging. Some studies suggest that blueberries may support markers of inflammation and overall metabolic health when included regularly in a balanced diet. Garlic is another food, often highlighted in discussions about heart and vascular health. It contains natural sulfur compounds that may support healthy blood pressure levels and circulation. Since blood pressure is closely related to kidney health, maintaining it within a healthy range is an important part of overall wellness. Garlic can be used in both raw and cooked forms, depending on personal preference and tolerance. Finally, egg whites provide a high-quality source of protein, with relatively low amounts of potassium and phosphorus compared to whole eggs. For individuals who need to monitor protein intake carefully, egg whites can be a practical option. The yolk contains more phosphorus, which is why some dietary approaches suggest focusing on the white portion in specific situations. To summarize, this section has covered foods that may require extra attention in certain situations, such as bananas, oranges, potatoes, spinach, and processed or heavily salted foods, as well as foods that may fit well into a balanced eating routine, including apples, cabbage, blueberries, garlic, and egg whites. As always, dietary needs can vary from person to person, especially depending on overall health status. Next, the focus shifts to simple forms of physical activity that may help support kidney and overall health as part of healthy aging. Chapter 9. Gentle exercises that may support kidney and overall health, and everyday habits that can make a difference. Let's talk about movement and daily routines. Many people understand that exercise is important for health, but it is not always clear which types of activity are appropriate, especially for older adults or individuals with reduced kidney function. This section covers 3 types of gentle exercise that are often considered helpful when done regularly and comfortably. The first is walking. Walking is one of the most accessible and widely recommended forms of physical activity. It gently increases heart rate, supports circulation, and helps maintain overall cardiovascular health. When circulation improves, blood flow throughout the body, including the kidneys, may also become more efficient. For many people, a good starting point is around 30 minutes of walking on most days of the week. If 30 minutes at once feels difficult, it can be divided into shorter sessions, such as 10 minutes at a time. Intensity matters as well. A commonly suggested approach is to walk at a pace where conversation still feels comfortable. If speaking becomes difficult due to shortness of breath, the pace may be too fast. One of the advantages of walking is that it requires no special equipment beyond comfortable shoes, and it can be done almost anywhere around the neighborhood, in a park, or even while running daily errands. Some studies suggest that regular walking over several months may be associated with improvements in markers related to kidney function in certain individuals. While results vary from person to person, consistency is often emphasized. The second type of activity is stretching. Gentle stretching may help relax muscles and support blood circulation, especially after periods of rest or sleep. Many people find that morning stretching helps the body feel more flexible and awake. Slow, controlled movements involving the neck, shoulders, back, and legs can be performed comfortably, holding each position for around 15 to 20 seconds, without forcing the body. This type of movement does not need to be intense. Even a short daily routine of around 10 minutes can be helpful for maintaining flexibility and comfort. Some people prefer to do these movements while still in bed, or shortly after waking up. The third type is chair-based exercise. For individuals with joint pain, limited mobility, or balance concerns, seated exercises can be a practical option. These movements can include lifting the legs one at a time, gently rotating the ankles, straightening the knees, or moving the arms and shoulders in slow circles. These simple actions may help support circulation in both the upper and lower body. They can be done for about 10 minutes once or twice a day. Even while watching television or sitting at home, the common feature of these three types of exercise is that they are gentle, steady, and do not place sudden stress on the heart or body. The focus is on consistency rather than intensity. It is also worth noting that some types of exercise may not be suitable for everyone, especially older adults with cardiovascular or other health concerns. High-intensity aerobic exercise, such as fast running, jump rope, or very intense aerobic classes, can raise heart rate quickly and place significant demand on the cardiovascular system. For some individuals, this level of intensity may be worth discussing with a healthcare provider before starting. Heavy weightlifting is another activity worth approaching carefully. Lifting very heavy weights may cause a sudden increase in blood pressure. Since blood pressure is closely related to kidney health, this can be an important consideration. Light resistance training may be appropriate for some people, but heavy or maximal lifting should be approached carefully. High-intensity interval training, often referred to as HIIT, involves alternating between short bursts of intense effort and rest periods. While this type of training is popular among younger adults, it may be too demanding for some older adults, or those managing ongoing health concerns. The key principle is that exercise should support the body, not overwhelm it. Gentle, steady, and consistent movement is often more sustainable in the long term. To summarize, walking, stretching, and chair-based movements are commonly considered gentle options, while high-intensity aerobic training, heavy weightlifting, and HIIT may be worth approaching with caution, depending on individual health status. There are also 3 simple daily habits that many health professionals often emphasize for kidney and overall wellness. The first habit is spreading fluid intake throughout the day, rather than drinking large amounts at once. For example, drinking water in smaller amounts at regular intervals, such as in the morning, before meals, and in the afternoon may help maintain steady hydration. This approach is often more balanced than consuming a large volume of fluid in a single sitting. If plain water feels uncomfortable, room temperature water or mild herbal teas are often preferred by many individuals. Many health professionals suggest moderating caffeine intake as well, since excessive caffeine may contribute to fluid loss in some individuals. Many older adults find it helpful to reduce fluid intake closer to bedtime, especially those who experience frequent nighttime urination, as this may support more restful sleep. The second habit is responding to the body's signals in a timely manner. When the need to urinate arises, delaying it repeatedly over time may place unnecessary strain on the bladder. Responding within a reasonable time frame is often encouraged as part of maintaining normal bladder function. This is especially important at night. If waking up occurs due to the need to urinate, it may be better to address it and then return to sleep, rather than repeatedly postponing it. The third habit is observing patterns of swelling and fatigue over time. Daily fluctuations are normal, so constant monitoring is not necessary. However, reviewing patterns on a weekly basis can sometimes help identify meaningful changes. For example, checking whether swelling in the lower legs persists when gentle pressure is applied, or noting whether fatigue is consistently present despite adequate rest, may provide useful information. Keeping a simple personal record can also be helpful. If certain patterns persist over time, having that information on hand may support more meaningful conversations with a healthcare provider. To summarize, this section has covered 3 simple habits: distributing fluid intake throughout the day, responding to the body's signals without excessive delay, and observing patterns of swelling and fatigue over time. These are simple practices that do not require special equipment and can be gradually incorporated into daily life. Chapter 10. Real-life stories of older adults who work to support their kidney health. This final section shares 2 examples of older adults who were managing significant kidney health concerns and made meaningful changes to their daily habits. These examples are shared for educational purposes only, to illustrate how lifestyle adjustments are sometimes considered alongside ongoing medical care. The first case is a 69-year-old man named Mr. Lee. 2 years ago, during a routine health checkup, his blood test showed a creatinine level of 2.1, and his estimated kidney filtration rate was around 38, which suggested a meaningful reduction in kidney function. He learned that, depending on how things progressed, dialysis might become a consideration within a few years. For him, that possibility was overwhelming. Dialysis would have meant multiple hospital visits each week, with long treatment sessions. Like many people, he worried about becoming a burden to his family. At that point, he began focusing on daily habits, alongside his medical follow-ups. One of the first changes was how he drank fluids. Instead of drinking large amounts at once, he spread his water intake throughout the day in smaller portions. In the morning, at midday, in the afternoon, and in the evening. He also reduced certain fruits that are higher in potassium, such as bananas and orange juice, and replaced them with options like apples and blueberries in moderate portions. Over time, he also made adjustments to traditional meals, often leaving more of the broth in soups rather than finishing it completely. The first couple of weeks were not easy for him. Food felt less flavorful, and the adjustment took effort. But gradually, his body adapted to the changes. He also stopped relying on pain medication for knee discomfort, and instead used warm compresses and gentle stretching when needed. Walking became part of his daily routine. At first, even 10 minutes was difficult, but he slowly built up to about 30 minutes per day at a comfortable pace. Another important change was responding more promptly to his body's signals, rather than delaying urination. After about 3 months, his follow-up tests showed improvement in his creatinine level, which had decreased to 1.9. After 6 months, it was around 1.7, and his kidney filtration rate improved from 38 to about 45. While individual results can vary, his follow-up results suggested that his condition had stabilized more than initially expected. Now, 2 years later, his condition has remained stable, with creatinine around 1.6. Dialysis is no longer being discussed as an immediate concern. He continues to maintain his routine of walking daily, eating a more balanced diet, and managing fluid intake throughout the day. He often says that these small, consistent changes helped him feel more in control of his health, and allowed him to spend more active time with his grandchildren. The second case is a 72-year-old woman with a long history of diabetes and high blood pressure. About 3 years ago, her lab results showed a creatinine level of 2.8 and an estimated filtration rate of around 25, suggesting a significant decline in kidney function. She learned that dialysis might become a consideration within a relatively short period of time if things continued to progress. Understandably, this was very difficult news for her. She began making gradual changes to her daily routine. She reduced high potassium foods such as bananas, oranges, potatoes, and spinach, and instead focused on foods like apples, cabbage, blueberries, and garlic in balanced portions. She also adjusted her meals to reduce heavy soups and salty broths, shifting toward lighter side dishes. Because of knee discomfort, she preferred seated exercises rather than walking. She spent about 20 minutes a day doing gentle movements such as leg lifts, ankle rotations, and arm exercises, divided into morning and evening sessions. She also spread her fluid intake throughout the day and reduced coffee consumption. After 6 months, her test results showed a slight improvement in creatinine, and her filtration rate increased modestly from 25 to 28. While not a dramatic change, her condition was considered more stable than before. After 1 year, her kidney function remained steady, and dialysis was not immediately required. She continues to follow her routine carefully and focuses on maintaining stability in her daily habits. What these examples highlight is not a guarantee of outcomes, but rather the importance of consistent lifestyle management. Alongside ongoing medical care, kidney health concerns often develop gradually, and many health professionals emphasize that early awareness and steady habits may play an important role in maintaining quality of life. The key message is simple: it is not too late to start making changes. Small daily actions such as spreading out fluid intake, responding to bodily signals, moderating certain foods, choosing balanced alternatives, and staying gently active can add up over time. At the heart of this is something many older adults care deeply about: maintaining independence, staying active, and spending meaningful time with family. Being able to enjoy time with grandchildren, travel with family, and live without unnecessary worry about becoming a burden. These are often what people value most. And that is why taking care of health, step by step, matters. A traditional perspective shared across many cultures suggests that changes in urine patterns were once considered an important indicator of overall health. While medical science has advanced significantly since then, the core idea remains relevant. The body often provides early signals that are worth paying attention to. As this discussion comes to a close, the message is not urgency or fear, but awareness. It can start simply with a glass of water, a short walk, or a moment of attention to the body's signals. Over time, these small habits may help support overall health in meaningful ways, and more than anything, they may help people continue doing what matters most: living fully and staying connected with the people they love. Chapter 11: Key takeaways and simple daily habits that may support kidney health. As this discussion comes to a close, it's worth taking a moment to gently review the most important points. First, it is not helpful to judge kidney health based only on how often someone uses the bathroom. Going more frequently does not automatically mean something is wrong, and going less frequently does not necessarily mean everything is fine. What matters more is how well the body is regulating fluid balance overall. Second, there are several patterns that many health professionals often suggest paying attention to over time. These may include changes in urination, swelling in the face or legs, ongoing fatigue, frequent nighttime urination, changes in appetite, persistent skin itching, and muscle cramps. These signs are not meant to be interpreted in isolation, but they can be worth noticing if they persist or appear together. Third, if 2 or more of these patterns occur at the same time, or if swelling continues for several days, speaking with a healthcare provider about basic tests such as urine and blood work may be a reasonable next step. Fourth, certain long-term habits may place additional stress on kidney health. These may include consistently limiting water intake, repeatedly delaying urination, eating very salty foods on a regular basis, taking medications or supplements without careful consideration, and not paying consistent attention to conditions such as high blood pressure or diabetes. Fifth, some foods are often discussed in relation to moderation, especially for individuals who are paying closer attention to kidney health. These may include bananas, orange juice, potatoes, spinach, and processed or heavily salted meats. Sixth, there are also foods that are commonly considered part of a more balanced eating pattern. These include apples, cabbage, blueberries, garlic, and egg whites. Seventh, gentle and regular movement may also play a supportive role. Walking, light stretching, and chair-based exercises are often considered accessible options for many older adults. 8th, spreading fluid intake throughout the day and avoiding large amounts of broth or salty soup may also help maintain a more balanced routine for some individuals. These are simple habits, but when practiced consistently, they can become part of a healthier daily rhythm. If this information feels helpful, it may be worth sharing with family or friends. Sometimes even a simple conversation about how often someone uses the bathroom, or whether they have noticed swelling or fatigue, can lead to earlier awareness and better health decisions. As always, staying informed is one of the most meaningful parts of healthy aging. The hope is that this discussion supports older adults and their loved ones in staying mindful of everyday health and continuing to enjoy meaningful, active days. More gentle and practical health information will be shared in future videos.